Hi guys, welcome to another video. One of you guys requested me to do a video about natural perfume houses. And I know this is kind of a word that there's no real definition. What's natural? Is it a certain percentage of natural ingredients, or is it you go all the way and say everything is, or does it mean organic? Does it not mean organic? But I have in this video now 5 houses that I think meet my definition of natural ingredients. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have a sustainable production process and that they have everything is organic. One of these houses is for sure everything organic as well. The others, I don't think, go out and say that they have that. And then I know that there are others that I also have mentioned on this channel. I know like Bortnikov has a very high level of natural ingredients, but they don't go all the way and say that everything is natural. And I know also that Les Indemodables also has, and I mean, they do state like each ingredient. I know that like the ambergris in Escale on Indonésie, like stopover in Indonesia, it's called in English, has a certain percentage, or at least a fraction of a percentage of real ambergris. But these houses that I'll talk about today are actually, according to me anyway, please argue back if you look at it differently. They have natural ingredients. I mean, there are houses like Obvious, for example, that have like, the sustainable bottles, and you can refill them, I think, and the tops are recycled. They can be recycled, and there's like a, yeah, I mean, but they're not, the ingredients are not necessarily natural. But, okay, I will start with, I'll start with my Swedish perfume house I have here called Nahélie. I know the person behind this house, but I bought this with my own money, and we didn't know each other before I got into perfumery, so it's not like I'm just saying this. She has 2 fragrances. One is called W, that's this one that I have, and one is called N, and I can't remember. W is for wood, and N is for something else that I can't remember, but I don't like the other fragrance. That one has a fruity note in it that reminds me of a special kind of Swedish candy, like a raspberry. They're called raspberry boats. And it doesn't smell bad. It just smells like, I don't want to smell like that. I don't know. There's something about that fragrance that doesn't appeal to me. But this one, this fragrance is, she does sell both bottles and also samples, I think, to other countries as well. Nahélie.com, I think, is her website. And this one is kind of a trip back in time. It smells a little bit like, it's like an ambery, patchouli, Middle Eastern type fragrance that reminds a little bit of like Obsession, maybe, of Opium, like those fragrances that were popular in the 90s. And it reminds me a little bit of Chypre Palatin from MDCI. I would put in the same category. She doesn't list notes. I think she should, because I do like to read notes. Anyway, it's a really good, if you're into ambery fragrances and if you like patchouli, this is definitely one to check out. They come in these 50 ml bottles only, I think. But like I said, that she sells samples. And I think that maybe if we're talking sustainability, I think that is maybe the most sustainable thing, is to not buy bottles, not blind buy. That's number one, of course. I would never do that. But I'm getting to the point where I read on Fragrantica, someone had written in a review, I'm not a full bottle kind of person or something. And I was like, okay, that's going to be my new identity. I'm not a full bottle person. I'm a person, I know a guy in the perfume community here that he'll say that he has a fragrance if he has a sample of it. He says, oh, I have that. Even though he just has, a 2 milliliter, 1.5 or something. And I mean, yeah, because 2 milliliter lasts. If you change your fragrance every day and wear something new most days, then 2 milliliters is going to last a long time. So that's going to be my new thing. I'm going to spend my money on samples, discovery sets, decants, and travel size perfumes. I'm not going to buy full bottles unless there's no other way of getting a hold of a fragrance, and I absolutely love it, and it's not similar to other things that I own. So I'm not going to have I'm not going to forbid myself, but right now I'm really proud of this. 43 bottles, and I count bottles from 30 ml and upwards. So I have been increasing my like travel size and decants more, and then started actually getting rid of and not acquiring so many new full bottles. And I think that maybe is the most sustainable part of fragrance collecting. I mean, if you're like me, just to kind of not bind all that capital. I mean, all that money could be put to work somewhere, or you could be investing it in your future, you know, college for your children or whatever. Because I mean, if I buy 2 samples of something for maybe 10 or 20 or $30, that's I can save a lot of money rather than buying one single full bottle fragrance. And that money can be put on the stock market, and I might be getting returns of at least 10% per year on average. If I don't need that money for 7 years, because I mean, a perfume bottle can be in our closet for 7 years and we don't really use it more than 7 times perhaps. I mean, I don't remember when I wore this last. I wear it once a year. It's so heavy, this fragrance. I do love this fragrance, but it's a heavy fragrance. I mean, I'll wear it like once a year because I have Le Lion, and I have Chypre Palatin, and I have other fragrances, patchouli fragrances that remind a little bit of this one. So it's bound capital. So that's kind of my big take on it. I think the move that I'm getting ready to do, I'm going to move June 2nd, has really has given me the insight of wanting to own less and the benefits of not owning so much. Because even if there's a nice feeling of like, oh, I go and purchase a fragrance, I pick it out, I get my cute little bag, I go home, and the feeling of, oh, I own this fragrance. But like, then there's also another emotion that comes up parallel to this nice feeling, and that is kind of the guilt. This is me anyway. The guilt of like, oh, this fragrance has been standing here now for 3 months and I haven't used it, just standing here. Do I really need this? I could have gotten away with a sample. You know, this is enough for me. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the video. This was my first recommendation. I mean, I recommend this one and not the other fragrance, but it could be that you like the other fragrance better than I do. I don't know, but it could be a nice fragrance house to check out. Nahélie.com. This Nahélie is the name of the house. This particular fragrance is called W for Woods. Then there is Ormaie from Paris, and the bottles look like this, the little ones. They're 20 ml. They don't have the name on them, but the top here tells which fragrance it is. This is Livre Bleue. It's kind of a gourmand, a little bit boozy fragrance. I love this fragrance. It's maybe there's coffee in here. I'm not quite sure. And Papier Carbonne is kind of an aromatic, slightly gourmand, maybe like a semi-gourmand, I would say. Really interesting fragrances. And then I also have this fragrance, even though it's just a sample, I own it. It's called Toy Toy Toy, and it's an incensey fragrance, a little bit smokiness to it, and it kind of dries down into like a nice vanilla. I don't know if it has vanilla, but it softens when it dries down. It's a little bit peppery in the opening. I don't need a bottle of this. If I would have to choose a new bottle from Ormaie, like right now, it would be Le Passant. I think it's called Le Passant or En Passant. I get them mixed up. There's a Frederic Malle one that also is called something like En Passant. That's a lilac fragrance, but their Le Passant, I think it's called Le Passant, is a lavender fragrance. It's a beautiful lavender, and I'm not really a lavender kind of person, but it's really, really nice. And I like all the fragrances from this house. I think that the oud is too animalic for me. And then there is, let's see what else they have that I like. Yvonne may be a little bit too designery. It's good, but I wouldn't buy it. Let's see, what else do they have? There's also one called, God, I can't remember the name now. It's really orangey, and reminds a lot of Xerjoff's 400. And therefore, I would probably not buy it since I've gotten rid of 400, because I got a little bit disturbed by that. There's something in there like there's something bitter. It smells a little bit like a bitter drink, you know, like Aperol Spritz or Martini, or not Martini, Campari, I mean, like a bitter orange. But if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. There's several more that I could consider from this house. Now I just can't think of them all, but highly, highly recommend to check out. And I give them extra points for these little tiny cute bottles. They're not cheap. It's much, much cheaper per milliliter if you go up to 100 ml. And they also come in 50, but the price of the 50 and 100 are quite close. So if you go up to 100 and you love a certain fragrance, you're getting a pretty good price per milliliter. But however, the bound capital thing, so important. If you have many fragrances, it doesn't make sense to buy 100 ml. I mean, you know the way you use fragrance. Some fragrances are maybe easier to wear. I mean, people do it differently. Some of my friends, they buy 100 ml and then they sell decants, and then they have maybe 30% left, which makes sense. And then they bought that, you know, for a price per volume unit that's actually quite, that has, I mean, that's pretty beneficial. Okay, so that was Ormaie. I recommend looking into Ormaie. Then there is I talked about this. I bought this in November at this perfume expo that we had here in Stockholm. It was my first encounter with this house. The founder herself was there with her daughter. She's kind of like a yogi type of woman. This is all natural and all organic, and you can really tell. Like, this is the first discovery set ever where I felt I'm just going to keep this and use them all because I like almost all the fragrances. I think there's one exception that I don't like at all, and it's called Wild Summer Crush, and it smells just like natural grapefruit, which is not really my cup of tea. However, it is when my son got to smell it, he says, I've never smelled anything so good in my life. It does smell like freshly squeezed grapefruit juice. Super, super realistic. So if you're into that kind of thing, I highly recommend it. But this discovery set came with 20 fragrances. And they're quite generous samples. I don't know if they're 2.5 or if they're, it doesn't say, or 2, but at least 2. I don't like when you get 1.5. I think that's too little. But there are 20 fragrances in here, and she had a great deal when she was here at the expo. These retail for 200 euros, and I got them for 100 or 99. And I'm not going to go through every single fragrance, and I'm also having a little bit of trouble telling them apart because there are, like, half of the fragrances, I would say, are nice floral fragrances that are really easy to wear, easy to like, very, very natural smelling, not super loud. They don't have the best sillage, not the best longevity, but not terrible either. And I think I'll wear, so this whole tray here are like floral fragrances that I will wear down to the last drop. Like, I won't get rid of these. Tempted Muse, beautiful fragrance. Let's see, is it called Ray of Light? Ray of Light. Lavendeluce is the one that I've already been through a whole sample. And not only this sample, I got a new sample, and I've been through half of that as well, because it's such an easy reach. But it's not that it's much better than all the others, but it is most unlike, like, I don't have any other lavender fragrances that are that good. It's like lavender combined with a little bit of gourmand notes. So it's a little bit of powdery vanilla, I think, in there too. Super easy to wear, super, super enjoyable. Can wear it to the gym. No one kind of will find me offensive. I love that fragrance, Lavendeluce. It's I think maybe a tad better than the Le Passant I talked about from Ormaie. Understand. I don't know if I'm saying it. It's German. My pronunciation in German is not that great. Jasmina, beautiful natural jasmine. Nectar of Love is beautiful. Liquid Dreams is beautiful. Lotus Rising is a beautiful kind of tropical type fragrance that I just sprayed on myself. It's really, really pretty, tropical, kind of fluffy, yellow floral with lotus. I don't know exactly, I can't really pinpoint lotus, but I think it has some frangipani or some kind of tropical flower in there. Unter de Linden is a linden blossom fragrance. And then there's Purple Rain, spelt like, you know, like a king reigns, not rain coming down from the sky, which is full of different purple flowers, violet, iris, lavender, you name it. These are all super beautiful. Then there are 2 rose fragrances. Rose L'Orange, I thought was a little bit boring. I don't love citrus fruits combined with rose. I'm not a real rose fan. Then there's Lost in Roses, which is really strong rose. This one I bet, it's not really my thing. with rose, like a real strong rose, like really deep red roses. I mean, but if you're into this, this is beautiful rose. It's pretty much straight up roses, this one. Lost in Roses, it's called. Then there's a vanilla fragrance that's really nice. It's called Vanilicious. This is the one I think that the perfumer herself is least happy with. It's not really her thing. I think that what she really excels at is the florals. But it's a really pretty vanilla, but it's kind of basic, I guess. You know, it's not super unique, but it's really nice. I will also wear this, not get rid of it. And then there's Coco Namour. This house, actually, you can find now in Stockholm. There's a house called Lorelei. No, sorry, a perfume. It's a store that sells flowers and fragrances, and it's called Lorelei. And they have 5 houses. She has 5 perfume houses in her shop, and one of them is April Aromatics. And she has at least 10 of them. She doesn't have all 20. But there was a girl that worked in the shop, a young girl, and she said this was her favorite. It's called Coco Namour, and it's kind of like their take on a beach fragrance. I'm just going to spray it real quick just to remind myself. This one has a little bit of coconut. Oh, this is the one this smells a little bit like a tropical drink. It's really nice. I mean, if you're into like pina colada type of fragrances, and it's really nice on the skin. I've worn this. This is really good. Then there are 2 woody fragrances. One is called Precious Woods, and one is called Pink Wood. Also really nice, both of them. One of them is a little bit animalic, I think, in the opening. Not very animalic. Those are both really beautiful fragrances. The Vetiver Coeur, I've worn actually a fair amount of this one. And I thought it was so beautiful first and creamy. And then one time when I wore it, I noticed something sour coming through. So I'm not quite sure. Sometimes I have like a different opinion all of a sudden. And Vetiver's not really my thing. Like I wouldn't go and buy a full bottle of Vetiver, I don't think. At least that's what it feels like now. But I mean, this is a good Vetiver. Maybe it's the citrus notes that kind of go sour in the end, but right now it's just bright, creamy Vetiver and bright citrus notes together. I mean, it's a good Vetiver. I will use this one too. And then there is, the Summer Crush that I told you about, Wild Summer Crush, the grapefruit. And then there's one kind of amber fragrance and there's one patchouli fragrance. And the patchouli one is called Bohemian Spice, and the amber is called Calling All Angels. And these are a little bit strong and smoky for me. I think that this is not my favorite patchouli, and this is not my favorite amber. But we'll give them and also I have several other really good patchouli fragrances. Like I don't need another patchouli fragrance. This might be your thing. These are loud. These are loud and have a good sillage, but that's like typical for the scent category. It seems to be easier to make a patchouli fragrance that will last than it is to make a lavender fragrance that will last, if you know what I mean. So I highly, highly recommend checking into this house. But I'll have to say that I think that many of the floral, beautiful fragrances are quite, I'm having a hard time telling them apart on skin, especially after the dry down. And I just think that there's so many nice ones that I have a hard time picking one out. And then of course there's the price point. They only sell them in 30 ml bottles and they're very pricey. I think they're like $200 for 30 ml. So it's not cheap. But if I find one, if I had to take one like now, someone would tell you get one right now, you got 1 minute to make up your mind, it would be Lavendeluce, because I don't have anything similar in my collection. And I like lavender with gourmand. I think that's a really nice powdery combination that really works well on me. So that was that. Then I have only one fragrance from the house, Envoyage Perfumes, where the perfumer, this is an American house, the perfumer's name is Shelley Waddington. This is called Lorelei, and it smells just like a Swedish summer night when like you get like puffs of blooming trees at night. This is just incredibly beautiful. I never wear it though, because I don't know, somehow it's just like a little bit too beautiful. I like to bring it out and show people, like people maybe that haven't smelled natural perfume, because it is so natural. It's maybe a little bit similar to California Reverie from Van Cleef & Arpels, a little bit. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's just straight up really beautiful florals, but in the softest, smoothest, most beautiful way. And I think that the price, that they come in these little 15 ml bottles, and I think the prices are quite okay. I mean, the price was similar to what my friend paid 15 years ago or something like that, like $60 maybe for this amount, which I think is good if you're into natural perfumery. And then the last house I want to mention and recommend, I never recommend any blind buying. That's not what I mean by recommend. I mean recommend looking into it. And this is Hiram Green. I think it's a man. And this is the fragrance that I own from the house. This is one of my top 10 fragrances. I love this patchouli, tonka, vanilla. I think there's sandalwood in here as well. Powdery fragrance. So, so good. But I hated it at first. And this is a house that I don't think that, like, if this is your first step into niche, like directly from the tax-free store, you're not going to like this house. It comes later. At least it did for me. So first I thought this just smelled like cough medicine. But then on the skin, it starts to grow on you. At least it did on me. And then it kind of went from a hate to a love-hate to a hate-love. And then kind of it turned into true love. And now I just love it. And their vetiver is really good if you're into vetiver. Moon Bloom is incredible if you're into tuberose. I've been thinking about adding a tuberose to my collection. And Moon Bloom might be one that I would consider. But maybe I'll try to get a decant first and not a full bottle because I'm not a full bottle person anymore. Yesterday I wore, see, I also own Tryst from Hiram Green. And at first I thought this is nothing for me. I was like, this is a boring fragrance. It's like neroli, green neroli. I don't know. I just didn't like it. It was like really sharp in the opening and it's really green, these really green notes. But then when the dry down is absolutely amazing, it's like, I think the base note said it's honeyed resins, but it's so incredibly good. And I really enjoyed it from the dry down, like from 10 or 15 minutes in. It's a beautiful fragrance. Tryst, this is their latest launch. Then they also have a really intense honey fragrance. This is, even though it has honey, this is not a straight up honey fragrance. But Slow Dive is way too much. They also have Hyde that's very, very tarry. I don't like that one either, but maybe I will someday. You know, I might get there. What else do they have? I mean, I've seen their Shangri-La is good, but I don't know. They're a little bit challenging, but really, really worth looking into. I think they're super special, and I'm really excited about, you know, finding more from this house. Unfortunately, they've changed the bottles. They're not as cute anymore. They have like a cork now, and it's all about sustainability. And of course, it goes hand in hand with what the brand wants to, you know, communicate outwards. But this actually I bought as a backup bottle, but I was almost out. I'm out now. I'm out of the other one. My son basically used up this fragrance. He loves this fragrance as well, but I've forbidden him to use it now. He got to take over my old bottle and he got to squirt it up, but now it's mine. So I'm not really stingy with my collection, other than that he gets so stuck on one fragrance and then he only uses it. So I say he can use it once in a while, but like once every 3rd month he can use it or something like that, but not like every day for school. I just think that's not worth it for me. Okay, guys. Well, this was my 5. These were my 5 recommendations for natural perfumery. Do you have any for me? See you in the next video.